Welcome to Gas Ed. Today we will be discussing how to use Claude Code so you never have to debug another N8 workflow again. Look, if you operate in the world of AI automation, you already know that building a workflow, that's really just half the battle. Maintaining it is where the actual friction lies. So today, we're exploring a completely breakthrough architecture that transforms those brittle, breakable automations into robust, self-healing systems. Okay, let's just dive right into it. The absolute universal pain point for scaling businesses is workflows failing silently, right? You build this intricate pipeline, it runs perfectly for a solid week, and then, out of nowhere, a rogue data type just completely breaks the entire chain. Historically, this leads to incredibly tedious manual debugging. You're stuck combing through execution logs, trying to find the one failed node, deducing the issue, and then applying a patch. Honestly, it's a massive operational drain. It literally steals time away from actually growing your business, costing you serious operational hours and overhead. Section 1. The self-healing workflow. So rather than human intervention being your very first line of defense, we can actually design an architecture where AI diagnoses and patches these issues in real time. Contrast the standard nightmare scenario, a silent failure creating a massive data backlog, with a proactive AI-driven system. When an error hits, this system fixes the code on the fly and immediately sends a proactive, failed but I got you notification straight to your project management tool, like ClickUp. It's a total paradigm shift. We're moving from reactive firefighting to proactive operational resilience. Let's break down how this continuous execution loop actually operates in 4 simple steps. First, your core primary workflow encounters an error. Second, instead of just grinding to a halt, N8n is configured to instantly trigger a secondary error workflow. Third, this secondary workflow securely routes the exact error data and workflow ID over to Claude Code. And finally, step 4, Claude analyzes that context, applies the precise fix directly to the workflow, and notifies you. It's brilliant. Section 2, Bridging N8n and Claude. Now, you might be wondering, what's the primary architectural challenge here? Well, it's connectivity. How exactly do we securely connect a public N8n instance with Claude's code, which is running in a secure local terminal? Think of your cloud-hosted N8n instance as a public grocery store. It's accessible, it's out in the open, and anyone, including Claude Code, can visit it because its location on the cloud is fully public. However, Claude Code lives locally. Think of that like a locked apartment in a specific private building. N8n cannot simply walk up and open the door to that apartment. It needs a very specific key and an exact address to gain entry. And that brings us to the solution, the secure tunnel. We use a tool like ngrok to act as that exact key. When the error workflow fires over an N8n, it sends an HTTP request right through this secure tunnel. The tunnel safely bypasses the locked door of your local environment, taking that error payload and dropping it directly into the local terminal where Claude Code is just waiting to receive it and get to work. And the best part, your internal environment remains completely 100% secure. Section 3, Real-Time Autocorrection Examples. Okay, understanding the theory is great, but seeing this in action is where the real value is. Let's look at our first example. We have an order processing pipeline. Suddenly, the workflow fails right at a validation node. If we look at the error log, it explicitly states that the node expected individual order items to process, but instead, it received a single array containing all of the items. Now, notice how the AI solves the root problem here. The standard software suggestion was just to add a new split-out node to handle that array. But Claude Code, it goes a step further. It traces the error all the way back to the root cause, which was the preceding code node. It actually rewrites that specific code block to return separate items instantly. So it's fully optimizing the workflow rather than just slapping a quick Band-Aid on it. Moving right along to our second case study. Here we've got an AI email agent designed to read subjects and messages using a structured output parser to separate them cleanly. But the workflow fails because the JSON schema inside the parser is missing commas, which makes the entire JSON output invalid. This is a perfect example of just how fragile standard JSON parsers can be when they're trying to handle unstructured data. So the error workflow triggers our tunnel. Claude Code receives that invalid JSON payload, instantly identifies the syntax error, inserts the missing commas right into the schema, and updates the N8n node. When the workflow automatically executes a second time, the email payload processes flawlessly. That is a complete seamless recovery, executed in literally seconds, with absolutely zero human downtime. Finally, our third example focuses on the wild west of unpredictable user input. Let's say a user submits a form to trigger a research API, like Tably, for example, but the user accidentally types a double quote inside their search query, maybe right before the word Apple. That one rogue double quote completely shatters the JSON body expression in the API request, causing a hard, immediate failure. Claude jumps right into action, but rather than just deleting the double quote for this one specific isolated run, it alters the JSON body expression itself to safely wrap the syntax. Claude is establishing a permanent guardrail here so that if any future user types a double quote, the workflow is going to handle it gracefully. It doesn't just fix the immediate error, it literally bulletproofs the entire system. Section 4. AI Guardrails and System Limitations. Now, while this level of autonomous optimization is undeniably powerful, a responsible AI automation system absolutely must clearly define its boundaries. We have to know the division of labor. Claude is incredible at fixing internal workflow issues. Logic errors, data formatting, code bugs, typos, null values, you name it. But it cannot magically resolve third-party roadblocks. If your API credentials expire, or if a third-party server goes completely down, or if you hit a hard rate limit from a provider, well, Claude cannot just invent a new API key out of thin air. In those unfixable scenarios, the system executes what we call an intelligent handoff. When an authorization fails, Claude recognizes that hard boundary. It safely halts the execution so things don't spiral out of control, and it sends a ClickUp notification detailing the exact manual steps the human, that's you, must take. For example, it'll say, navigate to credentials, generate a new Tably API key, and paste it here. It acts as your perfect diagnostic assistant, even when it can't be the actual surgeon. Section 5, the architecture stack. To implement this self-healing framework in your own business operations, you really don't need endless custom software. The stack is actually remarkably streamlined. It relies on configuring your n8n arrow workflow to route through a secure tunnel like ngrok. This hits your local Claude Code terminal. And crucially, Claude is hooked right into the n8n MCP server and n8n skills context. This means Claude has direct, immediate access to the official documentation, node configurations, and workflow patterns required to understand exactly how n8n functions. We are essentially supercharging the AI with deep, platform-specific knowledge. And this brings us to the ultimate value proposition of this explainer. Building this architecture means your business automations can run, self-diagnose, and self-correct around the clock. Whether you are sleeping, on a flight, or focusing on high-level strategy, your workflows are being actively maintained by an intelligent agent. This truly is the future of operational resilience. So the only question left to ask yourself is, how much revenue is your business currently losing to silent failures while you sleep? That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.